You keep sending networking messages and nobody responds. In this episode, I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask yourself to figure out what's going wrong. I'm Greg. I'm the Introverted Networker. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about how to diagnose the problem when you send messages to your networking contacts and they don't respond. There's 3 questions you should ask yourself when this is happening. Number 1 is who. Number 2 is how many. And number 3 is how long. Let's jump into these a little bit more specifically. Let's start with the first one, who. What you should be asking yourself is, who did I send the message to? Did I send this message to somebody I already know, or is this a total stranger? Because depending on the answer to that question, it could be a very easy solution. If you sent your message to somebody who's a total stranger, you shouldn't really expect many people to respond to that. That's almost like a cold call situation or a cold email situation. And in those cases, you're going to get a very low response rate. This person who you reached out to, who you don't know, got a random email from a random person they don't know. And no matter how great your message is, they're thinking, why would I respond to this? Just think about yourself for a minute. Think about your life. And when you get messages from people you don't know, asking you to do something or respond or hop on a call, are you going to respond to those? Most of us don't. If you're sending a networking message, and again, what I mean by a networking message is you have somebody you want to connect with, you send them an email, a LinkedIn message, and you say, hey, here's how I know you, here's how I found you, would love to talk more, are you up for a chat? I get those all the time. I almost never respond if I don't know who the person is. Why? Because we're all busy. And why? Because probably the thing that they're reaching out to me about, I don't have any interest in talking to them. If you're sending messages to strangers, they're not going to respond. So ask yourself, who am I sending this to? If you're sending this to people you know and you're not getting a response, think about what you're asking. So again, the idea here is, let's say you send an email or LinkedIn message to somebody you already know. How do you know them? How well do you know them? Do you just know them because your connections on LinkedIn? I have thousands of connections. I don't even know who they are, but we've connected and I see their posts and things like that. If that's how you think you know them, then you should reevaluate that. Really what I'm trying to get you to is sending messages to people you actually really know in real life, whether you worked with them or they're an alumni from your college or they're somebody who's in an organization you've been in. Those are the best people to start sending messages to because they're more likely to respond. And you may say to me, well, Greg, that's great and all, but how are they going to help me? I already know them. If they had opportunities, they'd probably share them or we'd connect. I got to tell you, all the time, I tell people to start with who you know, and they try it and they come back and they said, I've been having really great conversations with the people who I just lost touch with, lots of great ideas, and even some additional introductions to new people. Oh, that's what you're going for here. Those people you already know, what you're trying to do is get to a point where they introduce you to somebody new, and then you're getting a warm introduction. So question number 1, who are you sending the message to that's not getting a response? Evaluate that. And if you're not getting a response, you should really go back and focus on people you already know and start there with those conversations. That's number 1. The second one is how many. So the second question is, how many messages have you sent? Have you sent one and it didn't get a response and you're getting discouraged with your networking because you only sent one message? You're probably going to have to send a few more because, like it or not, people are busy. They're not going to respond right away. And so you may have to wait for that. And while you're waiting, send more messages. You shouldn't start to get discouraged with your networking messages, the emails or the LinkedIn messages you're sending out until you've sent about 10. And if you've sent 10 and nobody's responded, then we really got to look at what you're writing. What are you asking people to do? Are you asking them to look at your resume? Because People are too busy for that. If you ask people to look at your resume, they're not going to do it. They're not just sitting around waiting for resumes so they can review them. If you're asking them for advice or to, point you in direction for a job, okay, that might be okay, assuming that, again, these are people who you know. Again, going back to the first question, if you're sending messages to people you know and they're not responding, maybe you're asking them to do something a little too hard. You're saying, hey, let's jump on a call. That might be okay, but people may take a little bit of time. They may be in the middle of a big project at work. They may think, what am I going to offer to this person? So you're probably being a little hard to help if you're sending messages to people you know and they're not responding. But what I would really say is you need to ask how many you've sent. If it's been 1, 2, or 3 and people haven't responded, you need to send some more before you start to panic and say networking doesn't work. So that's question number 2. How many have you sent? And question number 3 is, how long has it been since you sent the message? Did you send it yesterday and you haven't gotten a response? I'll tell you, I routinely take more time to respond to people either through LinkedIn or email. Even when people subscribe to my newsletter and they send me an email telling me what their biggest networking challenge is, sometimes it takes me a few days, maybe even a week to get back to that, because I'll sit down and I'll write my responses to all of those in one sitting, maybe on a Saturday or Sunday. So it takes a little bit of time to get back to. I've got a day job. I've got this newsletter I do. I post on LinkedIn every day. I got a family. I got a life. And I'm not just sitting around waiting for somebody to reach out to me and say, hey, can you help me network? Well, I mean, I am actually, but like most people in the world aren't doing that. They're not running a newsletter called the Introverted Networker and posting a YouTube channel and doing a podcast and everything around that. I am, and I still take a little bit of time to get back to people on this. So how long has it been since you sent a message and you haven't gotten a response? If it's only been a few days, wait a few more days, wait a couple weeks. I mean, sometimes it'll be a couple weeks before people respond, which goes back to, again, question number 2, how many of these have you done? If you've only done a few and it's only been a few days, don't panic. You need to do a little bit more connecting. You need to continue to be active, reaching out to people you already know. Again, going back to question number 1, people you already know, working through that list of people, sending them messages where it's easy for them to respond or help you out, and give people time. So while you're waiting, keep sending those messages. The point here is, if you're not getting responses right away, don't panic. I know many people are trying to get a job right away. They need a job, they need connections, they need to find those opportunities. I understand that. And you're going to need to continue to take these steps, reaching out, sending messages, trying to connect with people in order to start to get responses. And then when you do start to get responses, you're probably going to find you're getting more responses than you can actually handle, which is a good problem to have. But if you do this a little bit at a time, a little bit every day, if you focus on sending it to the right people, the people you already know, if you send them, send multiple people, not just one person, but a list of people, a message. And if you give them a little bit of time to respond, you're going to start to get responses. You're going to start to have conversations. You're going to start to make those connections that introduce you to new people that are going to be the people who find the opportunities for you. So again, common problem. People talk about not getting a response. They think they're doing something wrong. I would encourage you to ask yourself these 3 questions. Who am I sending it to? How many messages have I sent? And how long has it been since I sent those messages? Really dig into that a little bit, and you'll probably find that you can continue to network and take action. There's probably nothing wrong with what you're sending out, and then you're going to start getting responses. That's it for this episode. I hope that helps you out. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. Please leave a comment down in the comment section. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe to my networking newsletter, The Introverted Networker. Send me an email or a message on LinkedIn. I'm here to help. Hopefully you go out this week, make some connections, meet some new people. Remember, always be connecting.